Good afternoon. My name is Ivy Potter, and I'll be leading a discussion today about differentiated instruction. There's 5 points we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what is differentiated instruction, how do we differentiate instruction, and how do we prepare our students in the classroom for this type of instruction. And we're going to talk about examples of non-differentiated practices and how we can change those. Also, the last point we're going to talk about is what does differentiated instruction look like inside of our classrooms. So let's get started with what exactly is differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction is a way for teachers to anticipate and respond to their students and the needs that they have in their classroom. You're giving students choices on how to learn and how they're going to show their learning or demonstrate what they've learned. You give a variety of ways for the student to learn and then to show their learning. So how do we do this? How do we differentiate instruction? And there's really 3 ways that you do that. The first one is you can modify the content or what's being taught. 2 is the process, and that's how it's being taught, really appealing to different learning styles. And then 3, the product, how the student is demonstrating their learning. So let's start with number 1. How are we going to modify the content? And while all students should be or should have access to the same content, same core material, but maybe the complexity and the difficulty of that material needs to be adjusted to that student's learning style. You can vary the way that you present the material to meet students' needs. Some children are more visual than others, so, throwing in some videos, PowerPoints, not only using the textbook and lectures, but really giving some visual cues as well. So moving on to the second one, the process. So examples of differentiating the process is maybe doing some scaffolding, and that is modeling or demonstrating how to solve problems or how to get through the material. And then, you're offering support after that as the child or the student needs. Flexible grouping, so grouping a variety of abilities together, students so that they can help each other through the work. The next one, you can implement interest centers, and these interest centers really encourage individual learning. Also, you can vary the lengths of time that students have to master content. Maybe giving some of those students that need a little bit more time, allowing them a little bit more time, but also not forgetting about those advanced students and allowing them to really dive into certain content or topics and letting them explore those into greater depth. The third way that we can differentiate this instruction is through number 3, and that's the product. So these products should provide students with different ways to demonstrate their knowledge. And they can do this through varying levels of difficulty. You need to make sure that you are assessing or grading students through group work and individual work, and then, having different rubrics for that work, giving each of them an opportunity to really excel at what they're doing. So the next bullet point is how should you prepare the students in the classroom? Doing this is creating an inclusive environment. You want students to have a quiet area to work, but you also really want them to be able to have opportunities to work in groups, work together, and collaborate with one another. Introducing materials that encourage diverse environments. You can introduce books, all sorts of different kind of material to encourage that diverse environment in that classroom culture. Also, you want to establish a way or, a process that allows students to get help when you're not available. A lot of teachers do an ask three and then ask me, where the student asks three of their peers to try and help solve the problem before they ask the teacher. So it allows them to ask their peers, collaborate with their peers, and try and find the answer on their own. Next, we're going to look at examples of non-differentiated practice and how we can change these and adapt these to fit a more differentiated instruction classroom style. So the first one is the teacher delivers instructions primarily by lecturing. And the way that we can change this to appeal to more of the students would be to introduce maybe some videos or make a PowerPoint and have some visual cues or some pictures that enhance your lecture or the material. The next one that we're going to talk about is that this teacher does not permit students to retake tests that they failed. And really this is counterproductive for everyone. A teacher doesn't want half of her class to fail, and students would like another opportunity to take a test that maybe they didn't do so well on the first time. And one thing that I would suggest is taking that group of students that maybe didn't do so well and give them opportunity to retake the test, but really go through the material with them. A lot of students don't understand the material, or they're confused about the questions and their options. So read the question, and then also read if they have options or answer options. Go through and read those as well, so that the question is clear and that their options are clear. I think you'll see a big rise in test scores if you do that. So allow them to retake that test with just a little bit extra assistance. The next is this teacher groups students at the beginning of the year based on previous year's achievement scores. Well, we all know that summer happens. And at the beginning of the next school year, not everybody's where they were. They're not as proficient in everything that they were at the beginning of the last year. So really we need to be taking students and grouping them together on where they are currently. Current test scores, current reading levels, and not using the test scores from the previous year, even though those are a good place to start, but we need to figure out where they are now and create goals for them to either get back there or continue to excel. The next example is this teacher gives bonus points for classroom participation. Well, giving extra points for classroom participation, okay, but not everyone is comfortable with communicating with the entire classroom. Some students actually have problems with just communication, period. And it really doesn't give them an opportunity to collect those bonus points. So what I would suggest is if you need to have extra credit or extra bonus points available to your students, have some extra work that they can grab. Say you have math, social studies, reading, all these different things, and if they want to need some extra bonus points or some extra credit in an area, they can grab that extra credit and take it home to work on it or work on it on their spare time, rather than just giving bonus points for classroom participation. Next, this teacher gives tests every single Friday. Well, okay, You can give a test every Friday if that's needed, but there are certain circumstances where that's not really going to be feasible. Students have missed days during the week. You might have some snow days, who knows, but students also can get some test anxiety. And what I would suggest is really making it more of, rather than we're having a test every Friday on whatever material that we learn that week, break it up and make it a little bit easier. So say we are going to do a quiz over section 1 and save the tests for, till you're done with the entire chapter. So really condensing that, making it just a small short quiz if you need to give one, but also going through that and reading it so the students understand the expectations and what's being asked of them. So the next bullet point and final bullet point is, what does differentiated instruction look like inside of your classroom? Well, this is an inclusive classroom. Students are interacting with one another, collaborating, working together, having plenty of opportunities to do that. Also, the teacher is setting clear expectations for activities, lessons, and assessments. Students and teachers are setting realistic goals. And the teacher, you guys need to make sure that you're giving feedback on how they're progressing with reaching their goal. Also, maybe giving them some pointers on how they can better reach their goal. And then the last one, really adapting to the changes that happen in the classroom and the needs of your students. Adapting and maybe slowing down if that needs to happen. Or, maybe they've kind of already mastered that content, we need to move on. Just helping your students meet their goals and changing and adapting your instruction to the needs of the classroom, of the students, so that it's an encouraging environment and everybody's getting the opportunity to learn the material and master that material. So I'm going to leave you with a quote today from Ignacio Nacho Estrada, and it says, "If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn." So I'll leave you with that today. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll be available to answer questions if you have any. Thank you, and have a wonderful afternoon.